Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you're watching from. This is the Ghana Agenda, and my name is Alfred Amuzu. Today is January 17th, and this is our third show in the year. Third show in the year. Today, I have very interesting conversations lined up. We'll be talking about Parliament. We would to look at the events that occurred in Parliament over the last few days when Advan Bagby declared the NPP as the majority. We'll look at that. We'll look at the fact that soldiers were allowed on the grounds of Parliament, and we'll interrogate whether that is something that should be happening. In fact, in our political dispensation or in this republic. And then we would look into the election petition and the amendments that occurred or were granted by the Supreme Court. And also, we will be talking about some economic activities, the LNG terminal that was delivered to the Republic. And this is actually located in Tema. We'll look at Moody's forecast that we are going to experience a 4% GDP growth compared to the 1.5% that was previously forecasted. So all these issues we will wrap up neatly, tightly, and chew it. To do the chewing and the wrapping up, I have in studio with me a gentleman called Mr. Efa Abayao. Mr. Efa is the spokesperson for MPP from the Chicago area. He's also deputy director of communication for the U.S. chapter of MPP. Mr. Efa, welcome to Ghana Agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alfred. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Well, maybe I may have missed something in introducing you. If you can help my listeners by giving us a little bit about yourself, what you do in the U.S., where you are located, so that they can get to know you before we start the program.
Oh, okay. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity for us to come and discuss issues pertaining to development in Ghana and how those of us in the diaspora can contribute towards whatever is happening. My name is Ifamiao. They call me Kakape. That's my political name. I am based in Chicago. I'm self-employed. I'm a social commentator, politician. I'm a community activist, political activist, and all that in there. I am here to make sure that, I contribute my part towards ensuring that development in Ghana, we all have opinion and we all come in as far as what we think the way forward for us in Ghana and for us in Africa is concerned. So I'm happy to be part of this show, and we're gonna make sure that it becomes, if not the best, one of the best in the diaspora. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much. And if you would be coming on the show a lot, so I want my listeners to get used to you, and of course, they'll be sending their messages to us. They'll be assessing your performance, and we welcome all this because this is viewer powered show. We take what feedback we gain or we receive from our viewers seriously, and we act on them. So I welcome all types of feedback. I actually encourage that you just send us your comments and we will read them out live on air. We are also expecting another guest. It was supposed to be Mr. Paul DeSoso. Paul actually belonged to the NDC, but Paul is now able to join us today because he's down with cold. So we pray with Paul and hope that he recovers as soon as possible. In place of Paul, we'll be having Mr. Kwesi Tapiwi join us. And Mr. Kwesi hasn't joined us yet. We are waiting for him. But once he's joined us, we will introduce him as well. Now, Mr. Afar, before Kwesi comes in and we start our conversations for the day or the topics we table for discussion today, you had given me heads up that you were in Ghana for the election. So I want to ask you, how was your assessment of the entire process? And do you think this year's election or last year's election, which is the 2020 election, was free and fair according to what you saw on the ground?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I was in Ghana for close to 2 months,
Right.
before, during, and a little bit after the elections.
Mhm.
My assessment of the whole situation is we've improved. We've improved on our electoral system. The processes that we put in place to ensure that there is minimum incidents or no incidents, that we take care of these issues of rigging and uh, problems coming from the various participants in the political process, in the election process. So yes, that one has improved. Now we need to improve on more stuff. There are this is the eighth elections, and there is a consistency of complaints that comes all these while. And I don't know, there's always the suspicion of the opposition. You know, we've had the opportunity of the major political parties coming in and going, being in government. And so there is a consistency of um, statements
Uh-huh.
and accusations that comes from these political parties. And I think that that is where we need to work on. My contention is that if the process that we've had in this dispensation, that's the Fourth Republic,
Fourth
is
Republic.
anything is anything to go by, we will say that we've matured. We've had 8 elections. So if something is consistently a pattern in there, accusations and counter accusations and this and this and this, and sometimes they come up so strong, we should be able to resolve these little stuff. You know, that is
Right.
one. Now, the second thing that I notice is that, okay, so previously
Uh-huh.
it has been whether you are NDC or MPP, your supporters are going to vote for you. It is not like that anymore. The political party should get it.
Right.
This issue,
Why do you are you
eh,
saying that because of any particular thing you've observed that they
right?
are not actually
So,
voting the yeah.
so what we should know is that there are
Mhm.
the die-hard political parties that are aligned to various political parties. I'll put it at 30% each. If it is more, but my personal observation will put it at that. Now, anything that helps you win are people that are coming in based on whatever reason. This thing happened to me, that thing happened to me. I think this one will do better, and blah 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 blah. Now, um, I'm saying this because you will agree with me that
Mhm.
for many of the for many of the polling stations or for many of the constituencies, you will see one party winning and then the president
I think
and
your
the
sound is
president.
sounding good now.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you will see the president winning and then the opposition winning the this thing, right? I'm not saying this is the first time such a thing has happened, but it was a lot in these elections. What that is telling us is that you see, people are beginning to look at, who do I really vote for, other than just go there and just vote and go away.
Okay.
Now, I also took my time to engage people. People are now politically informed, right? They are
Okay.
politically informed to the point where they are looking at reasons why they should vote, not just because it is election time, let me go and vote. So they are looking at issues like employment,
So you are
you
saying
know,
people are
issues
voting
like
on the issues instead of just voting because they belong to a party. That's what you're saying.
exactly that's exactly what I'm saying.
Hmm.
So they are looking at specific issues, and if
Okay.
those issues don't come up, trust me, they are not going to vote. So
Right.
these were all issues, and people really looked at all things before they voted,
Okay.
and all the political parties must take note. You know that you will be judged
Okay.
based on this and that. People are looking at employment now. What I've been telling people is that human needs are multifactorial.
Okay.
Now, what I mean by that is that now when you take a family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe free SHS has taken care of somebody's educational needs as far as a person getting into secondary school is concerned. Now, when
Right.
you even take education alone, now, what of those who are not able to take care of their case through the tertiary? They still have a need.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once you are even able to take care of educational needs, then we come to health.
Right.
What are people that are not able to access health? How are they going to respond to you when it comes to elections?
Mm-hmm.
Now, places where we have health facilities, is it enough to take care of their health needs? What are people that are not able, they need health attention, but they are not able to access it from where they are now, that they have to go to some places?
Right.
How are people going to assess you based on the fact that they went to give birth and because of complications that could not be handled by a particular hospital resulted in this and this and that? People are looking at all these little stuff.
Okay.
People,
So the understanding or your observation is that Ghana's democracy is maturing, and
oh
that
man, yeah.
people are actually voting based on issues.
Oh
So
yes, 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 yes.
our parliament. If you look at the composition of our parliament, which is one of the topics, one of the things we really wanted to talk about today. If you look at the composition of our parliament, it's such that we have 137 parliamentarian coming from the MPP side. We have the other 137 coming from the NDC side, and we have one independent candidate. We know that a few of the parliamentary seats are being contested. Uh, I'm going to show you a video, and then we can talk after we looked at this video. This video is going to talk about, or it's going to show us what actually occurred in Parliament. It's not showing Parliament itself, but what occurred in Parliament and who asked for the military to actually come into Parliament. Because we saw, all of us, on TV where military actually, entered into our Parliament to enforce good behavior by the parliamentarian, because people were running with ballots, people were kicking ballot boxes, and so it called for some type of military presence for the parliamentarians to come down. Who called for the military to enter into parliament? We want to look at that. I'm playing this video, and we could talk after the video.
Truncation of the conduct of elections, first time, ballot snatching, ballot box snatching. The second time, the same thing happening.
Ballot booth destruction.
Ballot booth destruction in the third instance. In fact, when it happened the second time, I conferred with my colleague, Honorable Harun Edrusu, that can this go on indefinitely? And I asked him that, look, we have to involve the marshal and cause the marshal to invite security officers to protect the voting. I conferred with Harun Edrusu. And then we invited the marshal and told him, if you feel inadequate, can you invite the security to come and protect the balloting? That was after the second time, after the second truncation. Don't forget, in all that, the first two attempts, we had to begin anew, the process. So when we told him that, he said, okay. He did not tell me that he was going to invite them. He said, okay. Then he left us. So when it happened the third time, I called him again. And this time went to the clerk that you guys have to put your acts together. And this terrible thing cannot go on indefinitely. Can you involve the security to take charge and protect the voting? That was what I told the clerk and the marshal. Subsequently, we saw the police and the armed forces enter. I have no, nothing against it, except they're coming into the chamber armed. That, to me, was dangerous. Because I saw that some of them had their hands on the trigger. And assuming in the melee, one of the guns had gone, one of them would have discharged bullets. I don't, for the life of me, appreciate what could have happened.
And we are just showing.
All right, Mr. Mayao. So you've seen this video, and Mr. Honorable Che Mensabosu made it clear that he asked the Marshal of Parliament to bring in the military. But then he turned around to say he's not comfortable that the military came with the guns and that their figures were on the trigger. So I don't know, what was he expecting, and what is your assessment of this whole incident? Should he have done what he did?
I heard him said he asked them to bring security, right? I don't know if I heard military. So that is what I heard right now. Now let's be fair. Let's be fair to the discussion here. When we see the police is supposed to handle security situations.
Okay.
The police is the first point of call for security situations in any incident, in any situation. It is when it is beyond them. Even when it is beyond them, you only reinforce, add more police to it, right? When the police have overstretched, that is where you go to the extra staff of, I don't know what the security situation in Ghana, but there are, over here they have the private people and then they invite them before the military. Military is a last point of resort when it comes to some of these incidents.
Right. But
so to the point,
day, I'm saying this particular day is unique because we are talking about Parliament here.
Right.
We've never seen security forces on the grounds of Parliament, on the floors of Parliament, ever in our history. So this is really strange.
Right. And I mean, I have my doubts if we're going to find out who did that. I ask the military to come in and stuff like that. But whatever it is, the military aspect we can always discuss and say it's not good and all that. The conduct of the parliamentarians was very, very unbecoming of them. But that was not to say that, or that is not to say that they did that so the military should come in and ensure whatever. I mean, that part I don't really understand, but it has happened. And I've always said on other platform that for me, the issue is not what has happened, but what are the lessons we're going to learn from it and make sure that next time it does not happen. Who did that? What is it that we need to do to that person within the confines of the law? Let us do it, and then we learn the lessons and we move on. But the conduct of the parliamentarians were wrong. The fact that their conduct was wrong doesn't mean that you should bring in the military. The police were professional enough to have been able to handle this, and Parliament is its own. They are capable of handling this. Once the 8th Parliament is in place, if they really mean business, some of these little things, they can take care of it. We put in place the structures and then they put in place their security details in case something is happening in there that they need to invite the police to come in. But as to what Mr. Chairman means by security, who ordered the military to come in, that I don't know, and Parliament should be able to deal with that.
Right.
There was no need for that show of security over there. Protecting the ballots at that time could have been done by some few policemen and stuff like that. The issue of more of a misunderstanding than just that. It was a misunderstanding expressed in another way. And going forward, I don't expect them to behave like that. They they were too low for us, for some of us to understand, and they put that institution and Ghana on a path that they have to correct themselves and behave themselves. We didn't
Right.
send them there to do that. It was just unbecoming of them.
Right. So, of course, yeah, we all condemn the acts of, or what actually, sorry, I don't know if you could hear me, but yeah, so of course, we all condemn the actions that occurred in Parliament. But, to the extent that Honorable will say, James, Mensa Bolton would, be the one directing this, it's what a lot of us are asking questions about. Uh, my other guest is making his way in, and we're going to introduce him too so we can add him to the show. Okay, let me see. Mr. Kwesi, you are in and live. Thanks for joining the show, Mr. Kwesi Tabiri. Mr. Tabiri is stepping in for Paul DeSoso today. He's with the NDC. Now, on this show, even though, my guests are either on NDC and, there is another on NPP, we speak as Ghanaians, first of all, and then as party members, second. So I believe that is the spirit in which we would be having our conversations today. Mr. Kwesi, welcome to the show. And if you can take about 30 seconds to introduce yourself and tell my viewers and listeners about yourself, where you live, what do you do, and maybe, something fun about yourself before we start the show. I think your mic.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Kwesi.
I think, is it better now?
It's good.
Yeah.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for having me, and it's a privilege to stand in for the Secretary of NDC in Massachusetts, Paul DeSoso. About me, so I live in Massachusetts, in Worcester, Massachusetts. I used to live in New Jersey before I moved here, so pretty much within the tri-state area. About me, I'm a general manager for a company, a retail company. I'm also currently studying as part of my MBA. I'm doing an LLB program and also an MBA program together. So kind of busy time at the moment. But altogether, I think notwithstanding what happened during the 2020 period, I think a lot of us has learned a lot of lessons from that period. And I think going forward, it will continue to guide us in everything that we do.
Great. So, Kwesi, we did one thing before you came, which is we play a video of, say, Che Mensa-Bosu describing what occurred in Parliament on the day they chose their leader, the leader of Parliament, and the fact that they invited security. And I'm going to replay that video for you, and so we can take your comment as well.
Sure.
So, if you bear with me, let's go back to.
Truncation of the conduct of elections, first time, ballot snatching, ballot box snatching. The second time, the same thing happening.
Ballot booth destruction.
Ballot booth destruction in the third instance. In fact, when it happened the second time, I conferred with my colleague, Honorable Haruna Dusu, that can this go on indefinitely? And I asked him that, look, we have to involve the marshal and cause the marshal to invite security officers to protect the voting. I conferred with Haruna Dusu. And then we invited the marshal and told him, if you feel inadequate, can you invite the security to come and protect the balloting? That was after the second time, after the second truncation. Don't forget, in all that, the first two attempts, we had to begin anew, the process. So when we told him that, he said, okay. He did not tell me that he was going to invite them. He said, okay. Then he left us. So when it happened the third time, I called him again. And this time went to the clerk that you guys have to put your acts together. And this terrible thing cannot go on indefinitely. Can you involve the security to take charge and protect the voting? That was what I told the clerk and the marshal. Subsequently, we saw the police and the armed forces enter. I have nothing against it, except they coming into the chamber armed. That, to me, was dangerous. Because I saw that some of them had their hands on the trigger. And assuming in the melee, one of the guns had gone, one of them would have discharged bullets. I don't, for the life of me, appreciate what could have happened.
And we are just showing.
Yeah, so Kwesi, you listened to the Honorable Member of Parliament, Chairman Zabosu, discuss what actually occurred, and in his assessment, he actually informed the marshal on 2 occasions to bring in the security. So why would the same person who's asking for security to come now all of a sudden be worried that the security came and that they have their gun and their fingers were on the trigger? What was he expecting? And what is your assessment of that whole situation?
I think throughout this situation, it's been quite unfortunate, the level of inconsistency of the Honorable Chairman Sabonso. And I think when he made the statement of the fact that he went to the marshal to ask the marshal to consider bringing in security, the first question that arose for me was that the Marshal of Parliament is a retired high-ranking security official. So between Honorable Chairman Sabonso and the Marshal of Parliament, I would want to believe that the Marshal of Parliament has a higher level of intelligence in terms of security and assessing the security situation to be able to determine whether he needed to bring in extra support or not. So it is quite unfortunate that the Member of Parliament took it upon himself to advise the Marshal of Parliament, because the Marshal of Parliament can assess the security situation to be able to determine whether he needed to bring in more people or not. It wasn't for him to go to the Marshal of Parliament for him to ask him to bring in more security. So for me, that is one of the questionable aspects of the whole situation. And it seems that the Honorable Chairman Sabonso had a plan in mind, because when we listen to him, he seems to insist from going from one person to the other to ask them to bring in from the security. So first he goes to the marshal, and then second from the marshal he goes to the clerk of parliament. Don't forget, these people on their own can decide to bring in the security if they feel that parliament needs a certain level of security because of where the issues are going to. But for Hussein Sabonso to consistently be the one pushing for this to happen, I'm not sure whether they probably had this set up of these people that were already ready to storm the Parliament House. We do agree that there were already people that were around Parliament House to prepare for the inauguration and stuff like that. But it looks like these people seems to have been able to be mobilized and get to Parliament House within a tinkle of a second. Sometimes, which brings into repute a lot of questions we need to ask to find out whether these people were already told that stand by, you might be called in. And that explains why the insistence of Honorable Chairman Sabonso. And I think going forward, I think the fact that he questions the fact that military people came in holding arms and some of them could have been trigger happy because of the situation that was going on. He, as a member of parliament, needs to know and understand that military people are not going to walk into a situation that they have been told that is an escalated situation and they're going to wear barehanded. It's common sense. Like, nobody expects a military person to walk into an escalated situation barehanded. So for him to ask them to come in and then question why they came in with arms, it's kind of something you don't understand from a logical point of view, because you expect them to walk in prepared to be able to escalate the situation, because if they, quote unquote, that situation needed to be escalated. So I think it is quite unfortunate that happened, and it gets kind of increasingly annoying when you see people going to every extreme extent to try to defend the indefensible, because the Marshal of Parliament knows that it's Parliament House. Like, sometimes voices get overhyped. Sometimes people's emotions might get out of hand in the Parliament House. But I do understand that Parliament has a security architecture in place, and that nobody was expecting that a member of Parliament was going to draw a knife or draw a gun or try to shoot another member of Parliament. And I'm sure that among all of us, if there was anyone that understands the situation better, is the Marshal of Parliament. And maybe that explains why he took more caution in bringing in security, and why he probably ignored Honorable Mr. Boyce in the first instance.
Okay, so Mr. Efa, you've heard what Kwesi had to say, and you've also had opportunity to listen to the tape again. Going forward, what do you think should be done to avoid, a similar thing from ever happening? Because something like this is not, something we are used to. We've never seen something like this in, the history of our dear country. So from where you sit, what do you think should be the next step going forward?
So, Kwesi, you're welcome to the show. Kwesi, I want to disagree with the fact that the Marshal was assessing the security situation and would have acted if he had not prompted, and he knew when to act. You see, when we have an elections, the Electoral Commission plays the ballot paper, the Electoral Commission officers and all that have some form of a security, something to the extent where a member of Parliament will kick it, will not allow the process to go on, call for some form of security. Now, what the military, yes, we all agree it's not something that shouldn't have happened. So that one I will agree. But you see, when all these things were going on, we agreed that sometimes things go higher. We understand. Now, in Parliament, when things are getting out of hand, we expect you, as mature as you are, as the representative of the people, to show the way forward. You're making laws that are going to guide us. You signing agreements and you're agreeing to things that ensure development. So when you go there and you're doing all these things, I don't know when they were going to be put to order. At that point, what they were doing, they needed to be told. Somebody needed to come in and tell them, hey, order here. We are going way beyond. Now, going forward, they know what to do. They are matured enough. This Parliament has been there 8 times, 28 years. If it's a human being, it has matured, giving birth, forming a family, and training up kids. So please, they know what to do. But somebody somehow intentionally decided that I'm going to muddy the water. I don't care about the consequences because I have immunity. No, once the law is protecting you, don't abuse it. So if they need to investigate something, they need to investigate it and put in place a measure so that next time when the situation is escalating, this is the way we're going to go. They have to, they know, they can put all those measures in place. And we expect better from them. We shouldn't be discussing them. We should be discussing some other issues and telling them to put laws in place to correct them. So they know what to do and they shouldn't let it go. And then another situation comes, it becomes worse than that. Because the other time somebody was discussing, oh, the Ghanaian Parliament has now joined the League of Parliament, World Parliament, where they fight. No, we can do better than that. So they know what to do. They need to set up a committee to investigate and put some rules and some measures in place. They need to do that. If the security setup is such that it is not enough to protect them in terms of whatever, they need to put all those structures in place and activate them as such. We can't keep going back on things that we should have worked on already. We're going forward and we have to go forward as a country. 28 years is not enough for us to be still playing around. Thank you.
Okay, great. So same questions to you, Mr. Kwesi. What do you think should be, the way forward? What should be done about this? Because this really is a low, in our this fourth Republican dispensation. What should be done?
I think I'm not surprised when I hear my co-panelists say he disagree with the assertions that I make, and I think it's that's you made an interesting point that we need to make. The discussion should be oriented towards building the nation, but it seems that sometimes we forget that, and we tend to be entrenched in our political ideologies and decisions, and tend to let that overflow into the things that we say. Because I think going forward, and I think the thing we saw in Parliament is a clear case of things that we have always spoke about in Ghana, about the fact that rules and the law is not respected, because the basis of everything that ensured or that happened in Parliament was the fact that a group of people calling themselves distinguished honorable members of Parliament refused to follow a simple law, a simple regulation enshrined in the Constitution that says secret ballot. These people needed to be reminded more than 5 times to do that. So, and the interesting thing about this was that it happened on the floor of Parliament, in the glare of thousands and hundreds of cameras and people in their homes watching. These are the same situations that happened during our polling stations, where people went to the polling stations carrying already stamped ballot boxes and ballot papers. If someone had seen someone at a polling station trying to put in a pre-stamped ballot paper into the box, and they had gone in to tackle them, I'm sure it would have been a whole different situation, even though the person would have proved that someone was trying to cause an illegality. So I think the basis of everything that we need to do as Ghanaians, and the basis of everything going forward as Ghana, is that we need to assure that every single person, no matter who you are or your status, goes and acts in line with what the Constitution says. We can't have one set of laws for the ordinary person and have one set of laws for the executive or the judiciary or the legislature. We cannot go on as a people like that. So for someone to try to, like, it was, for me, I found some of the statement that he made very questionable. For example, the EC wasn't responsible for this election. There wasn't one issue of EC official on the floor of Parliament supervising this election. The returning officer was the clerk of Parliament. And when the clerk of Parliament specifically read the Constitution, specifically read the standing orders of Parliament, Chairman Sabosu, that has been in Parliament for almost 24 years and knows the standing orders and the Constitution of Ghana, still led his part of the Parliament to pretty much tell the clerk, hey, listen, we are going to do what we want to do, and we are not going to listen to you. And the clerk didn't say this once, he didn't say this twice. He said this on more than 2 occasions. So it goes down to the fundamental things we need to understand as people. We need to understand as Ghanaians that going forward, we need to ensure that the law works, and the law is no respecter of persons. If we understand that, no matter whether you're NDC, your NPP, your PPP, the law has to deal with you as the law says we should be dealt with you. And if we do that, then it doesn't matter what level of immunity a person has or doesn't have. Then we all know that we can believe and trust in the law that it is going to deal with that equally and fairly, and that we're going to have proper representation if we need to, for whatever wrongs we've been accused of doing. But for the panelists to go on about trying to apportion blames, I don't think this is a claim to apportion blames. I think we need to be able to tell our leaders that, listen, we as the young people are learning from them, and we want them to set the right examples. And the right examples means that following the laws and regulations and the Constitution that govern each individual in Ghana.
Okay, all right. So while we are on Parliament, what I want to do now is I want to go back to a video from Parliament on their first sitting of the 8th Parliament. Their first sitting, there has to be a determination of who's minority or who's majority. You witness, where people actually show up in Parliament at 4 a.m. and all the things that happen. I wanted to play this video from the Leader of Parliament while he did this presentation on who or which of the parties will carry majority in Parliament, and then we will discuss that video when we get back. So let me do that by sharing my screen and then going to okay. Now let me know if you hear the sound as I play this video, okay? If you don't hear the sound, let me know, and then I would. Okay. Do you hear anything?
Yes.
Honorable members, I received a letter from one of your colleagues, the Honorable Andrew Esiema Amwako. Dear sir, declaration to do business with the MPP caucus. I, Andrew Esiema Amwako, an independent member of parliament for Formina constituency, and now the second deputy speaker for the A Parliament, do hereby declare that I shall, for purposes of transacting business in the House, associate with the MPP caucus in the same Parliament. For the avoidance of doubt, I do hereby affirm that I shall cooperate and collaborate with the MPP caucus in the 8th Parliament. Dated this 13th day of January, dated this 13th day of January 2021. Yours faithfully. Signed, Honorable Andrew Esiema Amwako, MP for Mina constituency. And copy to the leader of the MPP caucus. Honorable members, with this official declaration to the House, the House will accord him the space to do as he has stated. Whatever he said outside was of no effect so far as the business of the House is concerned. And therefore, he had to do it officially for it to be read and captured in the Hansard. And so what we have now, you have the New Patriotic Party wing or caucus in Parliament, together with the independent member of Parliament from Formina. And they now constitute the majority group.
All right. So you've heard. Okay. So you've heard the leader of parliament, His Excellency, Honorable Abangbabi, announced the MPP as the majority in parliament. What is your assessment of that? And I'm going to start with. Let me start with Kwesi actually. Kwesi, what is your assessment of this? You know that the NDC is currently contesting few seats in parliament. And at this point, the two parties each have 137 each. And there is also the rule in parliament that if you leave your party or if you're elected to parliament based on a party's ticket and you decide to leave that party, you lose your seat. That was why the former MP was kicked out of parliament, was kicked out of the seventh parliament. So, bottling all that or taking all that together, what is your assessment of this announcement that MPP is actually the majority in parliament?
I think we need to put things in perspective. The Honorable, Right Honorable Aban Sumani Bagben specifically said the MPP plus the former MP made the majority group in parliament. He didn't say the major, because there's a difference between a group and a caucus. A caucus is made up of one specific political party. That is why the Right Honorable used the word group, because he cannot refer to any caucus within the confines of parliament. The NDC is a caucus. The MPP is a caucus. The independent candidate is an independent candidate. The independent candidate and the MPP becomes the majority group. But I think, unlike the MPP, I think they might have lost focus on what is important to the NDC, because we are not splitting heads over who is sitting on the left or the right. The Honorable Haruna Idrisu made this specifically clear a day before Friday that, listen, the NDC does not have a problem sitting on the left side, because the MPP seems to focus on the wrong things. Whilst we are focused on the number that this is not the previous parliament where they had about 60 more parliamentarians than we do. This is a parliament where they are struggling to get one independent candidate as part of their supposed majority. So we are not focusing on whether they want to claim the majority. They can put whatever name or whatever tag they want on themselves. But the reality is this parliament is not going to be a walkover parliament like it was in the 7th parliament. And I think Honorable Muntaka made this interesting analogy that Honorable Chairman Sabotu seems to be still hanged on to the fact that in the morning he went to parliament with 169 members of parliament. In the evening he came and there was 137. And maybe he was still thinking he still had 169 members of parliament. He doesn't. So the quicker it gets to his head and he begins to come to reality with the fact that this is not a parliament where we used to have a Japa and Mary Dews being inflated by $800 million. And this isn't going to happen. So the moment they come to terms with the fact that this is a different parliament, and as much as a lot of people are throwing this word around that Ghanaian people voted because they wanted the MPP and the NDC to work together, I personally don't buy that. I think the Ghanaian people clearly gave the NDC a majority in both the presidential and the parliamentary. We're still waiting for the Supreme Court to give this verdict. But clearly, this was a party that had 169 members of parliament, reduced to a struggling 137, where clearly about 5 or 6 of them were won with the help of the military, pretty much to rig the Ghanaian votes, the Ghanaian people of the people that they voted for. So I think we are not really hanged on these split on about who is minority and who is majority, because we know that our numbers are important. The NDC has consistently called for the fact that we want our numbers in parliament to reflect in the decisions in parliament. We want it to reflect on the chairmanship of committees in parliament, and that is what is important to us. The MPP can call themselves whatever name helps them to sleep at night. They can come to parliament 4 a.m. from now till the end of the 8th parliament to ensure that they sit on the right side of the speaker anytime that they want. And we are going to be sleeping in our bed, getting enough sleep to make sure that when we come to parliament, we're able to do the work assigned by the people of Ghana, for which we were duly, the members of the MDC were duly elected into the Parliament of Ghana in the 8th Parliament.
All right, you will be doing the work for the people of Ghana, for which you've been elected. Now, let me ask, Mr. Efa, you've heard Kwesi. Kwesi says they don't care. They don't care if, where you sit in parliament. What they really care about is doing the job for which they've been elected. What do you say to the fact that, your party has been declared as the majority group in parliament, as rephrased by Kwesi?
Yeah, thank you. NDC, they do care. They had wished that the independent had joined them. If the independent had joined them, would they be making the same argument here? And Kwesi, there was no rigging in these elections. It is only the Supreme Court that can say that there was a particular rigging at any point in time, at any place. So until such a pronouncement is made, there was no rigging in these elections. NPP, we are focused. If we wake up at 4 a.m., we did not wake up at 4 a.m. to go and cause commotion. We wake up at 4 a.m. to go and make sure there is order, as we saw when the speaker was in the house. Compared to the other time when some people woke up early and all we saw was commotion. So let us see the differences in the two. We always want to make sure that reforms, orderliness, and things are going on as we expect. Now, at a point in time, the NDC was 100 and something, 114 or so, and we were like 107 or something. It changes, it swings, it changes, and that is the beauty of our politics. Let us pray that in 2024 your number is not going to come below 100, because today your number is 137. Now going to the substantive case, the substantive issue now. I think the speaker has ruled. The Formina MP has joined the MPP part. So they form the majority group, whatever you want to put after majority, we now form the majority. So we're going to take it up from there. Now, what I'm expecting, again, going forward, what I'm expecting the parliament to do is to come up with some of these formula of how to work these things out. Now, Chairman Sabunsu has indicated that before the 7th parliament closed, he had hinted Haruna that it doesn't even augur well for us to have the majority takes care of all these things, and so let's work out something. You see, we pride ourselves with some of these little reforms because it helps. It helps. You see, the fact that when you are in government and therefore has control over certain things, it gives you certain advantage. We recognize that sometimes some of these things is the reason why there are so many tensions, or there's so much tension in our body politics. So over time, how do we bring in these little reforms so that we are not going to do this do or die thing? Because whether we like it or not, whether there's change of government, some people are going to be career parliamentarians. Because it's an institution of the state. It has come to stay. So how do we do that? So we have to be thinking, the legislative body has to be thinking of some of these reforms that will refine us, that will put us on the higher level, other than we come and we seem to be fighting and all of these kind of stuff. So Badwin has ruled. It is a welcome news. At least it has brought in orderliness. Some people started to talk about premature whatever and stuff like that. Whatever is not good in there. Whatever we need to work on and reform on. Put all these things in place. It is human institution. It is not always going to be perfect. But once you identify something that is not good, you work on it. And then we move on from there. Other than that, after 2024, we will come back. And maybe, just maybe, there are about 10 or 20 independent candidates. No clear majority. And then now we're going to struggle. Who goes here, who goes there, who comes here, who comes over there, So for us, we are not disturbed. We think that Parliament is going to be responsible when it comes to passing of bills as they've been in the past. And this government has been responsible enough since 2017 that anytime there is an issue with anything, we have a president who will say, okay, if this is what he's saying, let's listen to them. Let's do the reforms. Let's do this. Let's do that. There has not been any way where we have bamboozled our way through. PDS was cancelled, and the Japan is still an ongoing process. If PDS needs to be tabled, it will be tabled. If a Japan needs to be tabled, it will be tabled. If we wanted to bamboozle our way through, we would have done it in the seventh parliament. But because it is a government full of people that think of Ghanaians, that the development is for Ghana, that whatever we are doing is for Ghanaians, wherever there is any criticism of a sort that is constructive, the president said, yes, let's take a look at what they're saying. Because like we say in Akan, so we take little bits and pieces out of here, join it together, and forward we go. So it is welcome. When an issue, when a law, when the budget is brought to Parliament, it's going to be debated. What is not good in there, we take it out. What is in there is good. What is good in, we keep it, and then we move on as a country. There's a lot that we need to do, in terms of education, in terms of infrastructure, health, agric, and all that. So let us focus on how we can go to the next level and not fight. It is not a do or die thing.
All right, thank you. It's not a do or die thing. Let me acknowledge a few people who are watching and some of the messages they are sending to us, and then we transition to. I know. Kwesi probably is thinking of replying to what he just said. But let's acknowledge a few people. When we get back, Kwesi, you can respond, and then also we want to transition to the petition. The petition that is has been filed by the former president John Dramani Mahama. So we have. Bright July is watching us all the way from Ketu South. Bright, thanks for watching. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Gonna get us on. We have Vivian Betty is watching. Thanks, Vivian, for watching. We have Paul Delali Bisosu. Paul is watching. Paul, thank you so much for watching us. I know, right? And Spirit Recovery, Paul. Also, Rashid Santoma is watching us. Rashid, thank you for watching. We have Fafa Kudao is watching. Wahab Sadiq is watching. Wahab, thanks for watching. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Ghana Agenda is on every Sunday, and we usually are on for 1 hour. But I think we almost done with 1 hour. I'm going to play with my guests if they can stick around for a few more minutes to deal with the other issues we table for discussion before we bring the program to an end. Now, there is a few comments also that I would like to read. So the first comment is coming from Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed. Ibrahim has been one of our big supporters. He's always watching our show, and we are grateful for that, Ibrahim. Ibrahim says, watching live from Ghana. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Ibrahim. And tell a friend to tell a friend that the Ghana Agenda is on every Sunday between 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in Ghana, that is 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. The next message is coming from Paul D. Sosu again. Paul, thanks for your support. We are wishing you speedy recovery. You were supposed to be on the program, but we understand that there's something in the air that we pray that it doesn't overcome you, that you overcome it. Paul is saying hypocrisy at its highest level. The MPP's spokesperson. Okay, I think he's saying something to you, Mr. Afai. Mr. Afai, you would have the opportunity to respond to that. The next, again, comes from Paul. So Paul has been very active, typing, giving us feedback. We want you to submit your feedback. Please send us comments so we can read it live on air. Paul again says, good submission, Kwesi. So Paul is defending Kwesi or backing Kwesi and questioning the submissions that are coming from Mr. Efa, who's representing the MPP. So Mr. Efa, do you want to, let me do this. Before I bring you in to respond, right? I need to go and get some money for Akko Radio. So let's get some money for Akko Radio. When we come back, you can respond to it.
Hey, this your girl coming all the way from the US of A, ya baby, aka ya Phantom. And me feel a boozing pan and to see one virtue the money how Ghana Mata the romantic. What's me sending provisions as I such credit Emma Ebusia phone and for more Ghana. And one is a www.ghanamat.com. And the say boy a sharp connection www.ghanamat.com. Let's try provisions in the credit na very zankasa. I have friend numbers na mo screen na seno Ghana Mat ye crano.
All right. Okay, so we also have Mr. Collins Wahini, Kenya, watching. We have Olivia Amaseji also watching us, and Seth Evans. Seth Evans is watching us as well. Guys, big thank to all of you for watching. We want your comments to our panel so that I can provide answers if you have any questions. So, Mr. Efab, you've heard a few comments directed to you. Please quickly respond to that, and then we will go to the video where the lawyers representing the president, the former president, were in court presenting their petition, their request for an amendment. So let's get your response to what has been directed to you.
Yeah, to Paul. Yeah, to the guy, that's a good show. Yeah, a good job. And then to Paul, I would say that yes, I agree that Kwesi is doing a great job. If Paul were to be here, we would be fighting by now. So I wish him speedy recovery so that he will come on for us to do some box on. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thanks for saying that. Mr. Bosilinga, thanks for watching and supporting. Bosilinga is one of our presenters in the ACO family. We are grateful for him watching and supporting and sending us comments. Bosilinga says, going to Parliament House just to sit on majority side is completely lame. Of course it's lame, right? Do you have anything to say before we transition to the courts?
I think my brother made a comment, and I think for some strange reason, the MPP seems to think it's made up of all angels. And sometimes I can't fathom that where they get that idea from, because orderly people do not conspire to steal ballot papers, right? People that are orderly, they do not conspire to steal ballot papers. So if that's what they mean by being an orderly party, then all the best and keep on being that orderly. And maybe in the next parliament, you'll be lucky to have 50 parliamentarians in parliament. Because I think, and I do agree with him that as a people and as a country, we need to ensure that parliament does its best work. And that's what the NDC is going to ensure, to make sure that parliament does its best work. He made a statement about the fact that the president is one that listens to both sides, and he's the one that takes constructive criticism. And you and I both know that is pulling it out of thin air, because there have been instances where the last parliament, the 7th parliament, which has been acclaimed to have passed the highest number of bills. For me, I think it's because the government made parliament a rubber stamp like organization. In instances, we saw parliament giving 24 hours to go through a whole draft of agreement to pass them. We did 24 hours. I'm sure if you gave a kindergarten class that amount of work to do, I'm sure they would have passed more bills in parliament than probably the 7th parliament did. We need parliament to do a thorough job. We don't need a president and its government bringing documents to parliament and giving parliament 12 hours and 24 hours to go through it, which doesn't ensure that parliament does its job and its oversight responsibility of the executive. So unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to do that in this parliament. So good luck with them, and hopefully they keep dreaming about all these whatever ways they are trying to dream of, to be able to find and be able to put other things across. But I'm sure that the good people of Ghana are looking forward to the fact that the NDC, just like in the 7th parliament, in the 8th parliament, will ensure that everything that comes through parliament has the good of the Ghanaian people at heart.
Kwesi wishes the parliamentarians good luck, that they wouldn't be able to do what they did during the 7th parliament, that they wouldn't bring laws and pass them within 24 hours. Like we saw in the case of Japan, where they brought the law, this agreement within 24 hours. They already, debating it on the floor. Now, let's go to the court. I'm going to play the video for the court. We'll come on the other side and discuss what we hear.
Well, before there is a motion for live transmission as well. We believe that that should perhaps take. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused. You have already done the motion for such arrangement should be based on an application to the court rather than an administrative decision. In the case of the election petition in 2012-2013, there seemed to have been an administrative decision made earlier, and then that was brought before the court itself, because presumably somebody realized that that administrative decision was not particularly appropriate. And so before the court, the matter was considered. It's quite clear that in the petition as filed, in a couple of places where we should have read first respondent, it read the other way. And we're seeking to make clear that, for instance, we're not asking for a runoff election between the Electoral Commission and the first respondent. That's,
let's accept it and proceed with it. That is very well. Have you made a mistake before in life? That is so. We all make mistakes. And that is why we believe that the petitioner should have been more kind of the innocuous errors made by the first respondent. But my lords, may I make the point then that the applicant will be required to amend again certain of the statements in the proposed amendment. Yes, ma'am.
Please, you are not conducting their case
Very well.
for them.
Very well.
They have gone through.
You have considered the application for you to amend the petition draft. You have looked at the nature of the amendment and as it does not change the nature of the petitioner's case,
You grant the amendment in the 10th place. Let the amended pieces be found by the close of the day before 4:12 p.m. today. The respondents are at liberty to amend their respective answers to the petition on or before 4:12 p.m. tomorrow, Friday, the 15th of January 2021. The petition is thus adjourned to Tuesday, the 19th of January 2021. The motion for live telecast of the proceedings is hereby struck as moved.
Yeah, so welcome back to the Ghana Agenda, and what we've just done is play the proceedings in courts, and where the Mahama team were seeking to move a motion for amending the petition itself, because I think the original petition had a language that says that they are seeking to have the election rerun between former President John Dramani Mahama and the Electoral Commission. So you will hear lawyer Chachuchi Kata there making the clarification that that wasn't the intent, that it was a mistake and that they should be allowed to amend that. Also, they also brought in a motion to have the court's live telecast proceedings, which the court denied and made a mute or called, adjudged that to be mute because they didn't think that was necessary, that administratively they were already going to do so. And Chachu again went back to say, back in 2012, it was done administratively, but they realized that that wasn't the right thing to do, that a motion has to be moved to actually make it kind of binding on the court to carry it out. Because if the courts make an administrative decision, the courts can rescind that administrative decision and then, go back to not showing the proceedings. So you've heard what I've heard too, and I think we've lost Mr. Efa briefly, but he's back on. So Mr. Efa, you've also heard what the court had to say. Let me first start with Kwesi. Kwesi, in your assessment, right, in what you've heard, what do you think about the Electoral Commission, the Supreme Court taking a position that they are going to administratively, telecast the proceedings without necessarily accepting the motion to do so, or granting the motion to do so?
Personally, I don't think I don't agree with the Supreme Court taking an administrative decision to have the petition aired. But I think when you listen to the Venerable Chikata, he made reference to the 2012 petition, drawing inference from what have happened to try to educate the court on what happened then and what he expected to happen now. And I think taking it from a legal perspective to a logical or reasonable perspective, if you do something in order to aid something that is going to happen, it is only right to have informed the other parties or the parties involved in it. And I think if the Supreme Court did go ahead to inform the NDC or like the lawyers involved to say, hey, listen, so we've been listening to public opinion based on the petition from 2012. We've decided to go ahead and administratively grant that the court is going to allow for this to be telecast. That should have been communicated, because the petition was submitted some weeks ago. So if the court made that decision, they could have communicated that decision to the lawyers and the parties involved to make sure that what happened didn't happen. And I think rather than a lot of people looking at it from the fact that the court denied the NDC that, I don't think that is necessarily right, because the court didn't deny it. What the court said was like, listen, this is what you want from us, but we have taken cognizance of it and we have already granted that even before you asked for it, or because we knew you were going to ask for it or whatnot. So I think that, and the second issue about the fact that they granted the corrections for the NDC to go ahead and make that corrections was also a second win. I was quite surprised when I heard the lawyer for one of the lawyers trying to make the case that in vain of the fact that the NDC wants to amend the correction, then they should have also taken cognizance of the fact that the EC should be also forgiven for its correction. And I think that defies common sense and logic, because there are some mistakes that are catastrophic and some mistakes that are injurious to the party, and there are some mistakes that doesn't injure anybody. Like there's structure for writing grammar, but if I write my English and my grammar is bad, it doesn't hurt anyone, right? But so you can't compare certain mistakes to others and say that they hold the same validity in terms of how the court should address them.
But if for example, if what the lawyer is saying that because the NDC made a mistake in their petition too, so the Electoral Commission should be allowed to fix the mistake they made. The Electoral Commission, according to Mahama, the mistake the Electoral Commission made had resulted in a situation where none of the candidates obtained 50% to be president of Ghana. So there need to be a rerun. If they would accept that, then we cannot stop.
But you see, that's the thing. If you make an arithmetic mistakes where you get 100.3% or 100.3%, which is not right, and you come back to supposedly correct that mistake, and that correcting that mistake doesn't have any effect on any of the percentages for the 12 or 13 aspirants, then that doesn't make any sense, which means you technically didn't do any correction. And the EC has gone on to do about 3 or 4 or 5 corrections, and they seem to still make mistakes in every single correction that they make. So that's what I made reference to, that there are some mistakes that you make. It doesn't have any detriment or it doesn't injure any person. But if the mistake that you go goes to the fact that it injures a party, or it goes to the point that it renders the specific laid down by the Constitution mute, then that's something that needs to be addressed, because then it has like the effect to be able to have much disastrous consequences than like an issue of a grammatical mistake or an issue of saying instead of the second respondent you put in the first respondent or whatnot. And I think we all need to take emphasis of the fact that the Supreme Court didn't grant the NDC the permission to go make that corrections because they were being favorable or they were being charitable. They did that because in normal process of the law, these are things that happen in court. When people file petitions or rates or whatever cases, they could make genuine mistakes. And if they apply to the court gives them provision to be able to amend that and make those corrections. And don't forget, since the NDC is going to make that correction, the Supreme Court also asked the MPP and the EC and the president's lawyer to also make their corrections based on that correction the day after. Because these are procedural issues that come from the court, and the court admits and understands that these are things that happen in line of the court. And don't forget, Supreme Courts don't just wake up to become Supreme Court. They've gone through the court system, and these are issues they have come to deal with over and over again, and understand that these are sometimes things that occur, and that it's part of the legal process and the structure within which it operates.
Okay, cool. Let's go to Mr. Fa and bring Mr. Ifa into this conversation. Mr. Fa, you've heard Kwesi make so many points here, and he's saying that what is happening here is procedural. You know, it happens all the time that mistakes are made in filing of applications, rights, or petitions. That the courts usually allow these amendments to happen. What is the logic behind the MPP's lawyer actually objecting to what seemed to be a procedural de minimis per se?
Yeah, thank you. So the logic is for all of us to realize that mistakes are part of us. They are everyday part of us, and that it becomes material. It becomes material. See, there are immaterial mistakes and material mistakes.
Okay.
So mistake become material when, if you don't correct it, injustice or whatever will affect somebody of a sort. So that is the logic behind it. So we oppose it so that there will be a ruling on it for a little bit of interaction for all of us to know that is why, you see, he objected and admitted that, yes, we have made mistakes. And added that is why you see you should have been more kind, because at the end of the day, we have looked at your petition and we see that all these things that you are making is just to pull something that we cannot find. That is number one. Now, the question of the Supreme Court saying that their request was mute. Now, if Kwesi is not aware, Chachu was late. Chachu was late in court on that day. So did not take notice of the fact that the Supreme Court has already ensured and has already made sure that cameras are there and that the thing was going to telecast live.
Right.
So let us get that. So next time, that's why the Supreme Court was we've already decided that it's going to go. And you see, it is not every single petition that needs consultation. Now, telecasting it live. It is not to benefit the political party. It is for the good of the Ghanaians. And the court is there for the Ghanaians. If anything that has to do with the political party specifically, they will be informed. But telecasting it is for the benefit of all of us, so that we are all going to hear and make a judgment for ourselves, so that when it comes, we all know, other than somebody always reporting to us. So, and if there was a need for any objection to that, they would have the NDC would have done that. Now, to the petition itself,
right?
You see, there is a whole confusion in this petition, and that is one of the problems that we've always had with the NDC, the issue of contradiction. Now, in the elections, I was there in Ghana. I was an election monitor in my constituency, Kintampo South. I was based in Tema. There was not a single polling station where in 2013 we were told that elections are won by this same Supreme Court, that NDC can tell me that they did not have an agent. There was an agent, and the agent was issued with a pink sheet. Before this petition, the NDC as a political party and the presidential candidate had a press conference, and they told the whole world that they've won. Based on what coalition? Based on what coalition? Now you go to the Supreme Court and you are telling the Supreme Court that nobody won, that you won a runoff. Is that not a contradiction? What informed the win? And what is informing the runoff? Can they tell us? And it's going to come up. It is definitely going to come up. Now, another thing with this, the petition seemed to solely based on the declaration and the correction thereof. It is not based on any of the pink sheets or none of the 200 and over 38,000 polling stations. Okay. So that is where another question come in. NDC, did you do your press conference with what? Did you have your own number somewhere that you put together, or you use the pink sheets? Did you consult your polling agents? These are all questions that beat some of us our imagination. But we are here, and we're going to have that discussion.
All right.
Now, so when you take the declaration and the correction thereof,
it looks like he didn't read the petition. You need to go read a copy of the petition, because it looks like you didn't read it. Because if you did, you wouldn't be making reference to the fact that there is no mention of any of the 36,000. Because the petition,
when I'm done,
how can you challenge the voting if you're not including the petition?
Give me time.
Go read the petition and maybe you can come back.
No, and then we'll give you time to.
I think, yeah. When I'm done, you just give me the list of the polling stations that you talk about. Okay, I'll be listening to you. And I think we have to do this discussion that way. You get what I mean? Now, the declaration and the correction thereof.
Right.
You see, he said instead of quoting, I stand to be corrected on the number. 13,119,000. She quoted 13,339,000 something, right? What is written on the paper was not what was quoted. So the correction thereof said, having made this correction, it does not change the percentage. And it's been gazetted as such. You know, it doesn't change the percentage. And then you say it changes the percentage. Now, when you look at the NDC, what they are saying about the petition is this, that the correction added about 6,000, 5,000, 6,000 votes. And that is where they have a challenge.
Maybe let's bring Kwesi in, right? Because
now, if I can draw my conclusion, then he can come in. Now,
okay, come on,
so the point is that, yes, having admitted that mistakes happen, let's even say that the 6,000 is a mistake. How much did the president of Ghana, what was the vote difference? 515,000, over 515,000, right? So even if you are taking the 15,000, 500,000. So at the end of the day, when you look at this petition, we don't really know what they want. And what I've already drawn my conclusion. They're keeping their support base together. They're putting up a fight. It is like a husband and a wife at a bar. Somebody comes and is trying to make some distance, and then the husband is sitting down. Then the woman will say, "Won't you do something?" Then the man has to stand up and start talking for the wife to know that Miss Michael, I am also there. And that is exactly what is happening here.
Okay.
And we leave it to the Supreme Court. I have my own conclusion, but we leave it to the Supreme Court to decide on that. But we thank God that we show them the way, and then they chosen the path of the Supreme Court. But it was bad for Mahama to tell the supporters that he has won and ask them to go on the street and then go to the Supreme Court and said nobody won. That was a huge deception. I yield.
Okay. All right. Great. So let me read 2 messages, and then I would let Kwesi explain what he thinks is actually in the petition that you are not getting correct. When I say you, I'm talking about FI. Okay, so let's look at what Mr. Boslinger says here. Boslinger is saying that Mahama is petitioning that the numbers declared by EC are not accurate. And the petition itself needs amendment. That is just a joke. Okay, Boslinger, you're saying, you know, EC made a mistake, but here you are making a mistake yourself. We got that. Okay, the second message I wanted to read before Kwesi comes in is again from Boslinger, and he says, great submission, Mr. Mayao. Mr. Mayao, you're getting fans there. He says, NDC is just throwing salt in the eyes of Ghanaians. You claim to have won the elections and then file a petition that no one won. What informed that decision of winning the election? Okay, great. So, Mr. Kwesi, a question for you here. They are saying, or our listeners, Boslinger and Mr. Amayao, are both saying that you, the NDC, claim you won the election. You went, you know, to a press conference, ask your people to go on the streets and fight. Then go to the Supreme Court to say, by the way, between Nana Akufo-Addo and John Dramani Mahama, they both didn't obtain the 50 plus 1% required to be declared president. How do we square these 2 things that you're saying? Are you confused? Why is this petition even out to start with if you won the election? Shouldn't you be filing a petition that says you won the election, that the result should be overturned?
I think my brother and whoever is making that analysis is confused and probably might not understand the difference between what the petition hopes to achieve and what they are talking about. First of all, this is a issue of a legal matter. I don't think when 2 lawyers are involved in a legal tussle or take an issue to court, one lawyer looks at the other lawyer's case and says, I think you've lost based on the way you put the case. Because if you put a case in a certain way or certain perspective, you know what you want to achieve by how you structure the case or how you put the case. So whatever they want to say, I'm sure they can go ahead and make noise and talk about it because they don't see it from how we see it from a legal perspective, which is entirely fine. Talking about the fact that we said we won the election, but we are not going to the petition doesn't say we won the election. There's only one body that is authorized by the Constitution of Ghana to declare elections, is the Electoral Commission of Ghana. The NDC is not going to do what Jacob Lemte did by declaring the MPP as having won the election. We during our press conference said, based on the results we got, we believe we have won the election. We didn't declare that we have won the election, right? Let me give you a specific example of Techiman South. When the MPP was going around the fact that they have won Techiman South, right? They took all of us to their database system. They took us into the conference to show us the numbers. When Paul Ademotre specifically asked about the parliamentary result for Techiman South, Joe Anoche said they don't have all the pink sheets and that they don't have the details for Techiman South. And these were people that have continued before that for almost a week or 2 weeks straight, have been telling us that they want Techiman South. So I don't know which dwarf conjured the numbers for them to think that they want Techiman South, even though they didn't have the numbers, even though they didn't have the pink sheet. So we are not going to be like them that are going to tell people to come look at pink sheets that are folded, pink sheets that are folded and tied with rubber bands on tables that nobody looked at it. This is how it was when they did their press conference. They pretty much folded every pink sheet, tied it with a rubber band and put it by the side of McMenu. Nobody was allowed to look at those pink sheets. That's how dubious the MPP is when it comes to election results. And it's clear that they have done everything in their power to try to rig the election in so many ways. And I was making reference to the fact that he might not have listened to read the entire petition. When EC chairperson Jane Mensah made the declaration, he told the whole of Ghana that the only constituency that was outstanding was Techiman South, and that if all the numbers were given to President John Dramani Mahama, it wouldn't still make any difference. Today, we all know that was a pathetic and blunt lie. The EC chairwoman lied to all of us, because now we know that as at the time that she was announcing that with results, there was at least 3 constituencies, and that is the truth. If those 3 numbers from that 3 constituencies were given to President John Mahama, would have made a difference. So you see that's what I'm saying, that he probably didn't read the petition, or he probably looked at the petition from a certain point of view, because just because you challenge the 2012 elections looking at certain irregularities doesn't mean we should also do the same thing. Don't forget, in the petition, I think point 31 or so, I think Exhibit F, we raised the fact that we gave example of constituencies where the results don't tally. We gave 32 of those. So maybe he needs to go find that exhibit and look at those constituencies. Because in Ghana's elections, there is no way 15,000 people will go to an election place, vote for a presidential candidate, and not vote for a parliamentary candidate. And this happened around numerous constituencies in the Ashanti region. So maybe he might have a certain idea how they want that the NDC to present their case. But just as I was saying, from one lawyer to the other, you don't expect a certain lawyer to present a case in the same way you would have presented it because you looked at it the same way. For example, clear example, during the night of the 7th of January, during Parliament, right? Different parties were quoting different parts of the Constitution to support their argument. So just because the MPP believes that a certain argument for them is what they would have made doesn't mean we should make the same argument. And trust me, we know what numbers we got from each constituency. And don't forget, I think people forget this. Election results are declared at polling stations, not at constituency centers, and definitely not at regional capitals. This was the first time in Ghana that someone, the EC, decided to introduce as an extra layer into the collation of results. And clearly, this was a way for them to rig the election in favor of the government. Because as you see, you can only change numbers when you put more lines of transmission into it. If it was from constituency to the EC office, then you cannot make changes. But if it's from the constituency level to the regional level, then from the regional to the national level, then you can make those changes. And that is what we have seen during this election, to the point that the EC has gone online to change documents that it itself has submitted online numerous occasions. They have put up documents that they have come to retract it. Why? Because those were falsified documents. Because every single political party has these pink sheets. For example, I think in the case of the Western region, where they did the coalition and then they said, oh, they forgot to add one constituency. And surprisingly, they added that constituency only when the MPP agent was there. It makes no logical sense. So I'm sure these people can go ahead, just like he said that he has a certain perspective of how the case is going to end. I'm sure I also have a certain perspective of how the case is going to end. No prejudice to the judges and staff sitting on the case. But I think that if you look at, someone made an interesting analysis recently. If you look at 7 of the judges, at least 4 or 5 of them are judges that have sat on cases, that have sat on 4 cases over the last year that the government has won. Right. The issue of whether the EC could compile a new voters register. 4 or 5 of those judges sat on the same case. They all agreed that the EC could do that. The issue of whether Martin Amidu could hold public office as it is, 4 or 5 of those judges sat on it, and they all unanimously agreed with the government. The issue of, I think there are 2 other issues. So there are at least 4 or 5 of these panel judges that have clearly showed us that they are prepared to support the government when a case comes to the Supreme Court. And for me, I think that with a panel of 19 judges, we could have done better impaling a certain number of judges to make sure that it was a wider pool, right? 7, maybe 9. And if there's maybe an appeal, you could increase it to what, an 11. But now we have 7. And I think that's what you have to deal with.
So you know, in the previous petition, it was 9. What was the reason for the 7th panel at this point?
That is what I'm saying. That for me, I think it's surprising. Like the impaling of the judges is 7. But I think that again, I think this is the idea. You look at the people that got appointed to the justices, like on the 7 people.
Right.
One of them was appointed in 2015 during President Mahama's time. There's, I think, 4 or 5 of them that has been appointed during President Nanado's time, and then the Chief Justice that was appointed during President Mahama's time. If the court wants to empanel 9 judges, right, they have to add more judges. Every single judge they're going to add is one that is going to be a judge or a Supreme Court judge appointed by the Akufo-Addo government. So this is like a psychological thing, because they don't want the Ghanaian people to feel that they're empaneling more judges, and these are all judges that were brought into the Supreme Court by the Akufo-Addo government. Because don't forget, out of the 17 or 19 judges, this president appointed 11 of them. So the probability that if they empanel 9 judges or 11 judges or whatever not, the people appointed by the Akufo-Addo government are going to be the biggest chunk of them. And probably the reason why they are empaneling 7 judges and bringing in about 4 of those people from that group of people that were appointed by the Akufo-Addo government. But some of us, it's a clear thing you can really see through to see that the Supreme Court or the Chief Justice is trying so hard to try to take away that kind of bias that most people might read into the selection of the judges. Because as you clearly said, in 2012, there was 9 judges. We have more judges on the Supreme Court now than we did have in 2012. So if in 2012 we're able to have 9, why do we have 7 now? And I'm sure that towards as the case goes on and as the petition goes on, we'll be able to understand maybe the idea or the notion behind how the composition is, and going to the end, we might be able to get a better and fair understanding of why some of those things happened.
Okay, great. So we have a few more messages. I'm going to read them, and then I want us to, I think we almost passed 6:30 now. We are 6:37, which is 37 minutes more than we thought. But I want to read messages. When we come back, we're going to look at 1 or 2 economic issues just to kind of speak to some good news, because I know it gets a little contentious and sometimes you get a little negative with the political ones. So let's bring in some good economic news, and perhaps that would be how we close out today. So I think we've read the one from Basilinga. So let's look at another comment here coming from Paul Disosu. He says the MPP person submissions are totally mischievous and propaganda. Kwesi is right here Kwesi is right. He has not read the NDC petition. The reason why he is talking about things he does not understand. So, Mr. Fa, did you take your time to read through the petition that was submitted by the NDC and how? I mean, when we get back, I want you to tell me what your understanding of the petition is. But before so, let me read the other message we have from Thomas Anna. Thomas, thanks for watching. Thomas says, the MPP lawyer said JM should have been kind to the EC because there were mistakes in the election petition. The NDC was more than kind to the EC because before the declaration, the NDC detected anomalies and JM petitioned the EC to hold on so the necessary corrections be made, and the EC refused and went ahead to declare the results. The NDC pushed further for the EC to come to the table so they can resolve the problem, and the EC said no. So I don't know what he said at the end, but he says have a case go to court. So what kind of kindness? Okay, so he's saying that, you know, that the NDC was kind and tried so many different times to get the NDC to the EC to accept a petition that is submitted, but the EC wasn't listening. Boss Linga again said that, Kwesi, I'm sorry, but what you are saying is just double standard. You can't claim you won and file a petition that no one won, and therefore there should be a runoff. Okay? That has been clearly stated. Boss Linga, thanks for sending your message. Kwesi then responded to Boss Linga. Kwesi, you are busy. Oh. You are talking to us and responding. I like that. Double tasking yourself, multitasking. That's good. So Kwesi says, Boss Linga, election declaration isn't based on NDC numbers, notwithstanding the fact that we have our pink sheets. Okay, so I think we've said so much about the case, but there's a question being asked by Kwesi to you, Afa, that you may have not read the petition. Is that true? Did you read the petition? If you read Mahama's petition, what is your understanding of that petition?
I am here. If I have not read it, how was I able to know that in the petition they claim a runoff?
Right.
They are just running away from the basic facts. And the facts are that you said you won. And then when we pushed you and said, you said we won, based on which you asked your people to just go on the street, some of which died. Some of them died, unfortunately. And then you went to the court where we settled all these matters that you think you have with the EC or the general elections. And then you said, nobody won. Is this not a contradiction? If this is not a contradiction to you, if you think telling your people that you won is whatever it is, then I don't know how else to put it. But for me, it is illogical and it is a contradiction that you do a press conference based on what? Based on what numbers? Based on what coalition? Did you draw that conclusion that I've won and that the EC is trying to steal the elections? Kwesi is here saying that, and the military is only, if any military, you saw military somewhere. Military was all over in my constituency, even though we did not have any incident. If you saw the military, they were just keeping the peace. Somebody snatching a ballot box and getting shot by military, whatever. I mean, you put that to yourself.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that simple. You told your supporters, go on the street because I've won, and go and then to the point where they even made a video where they were trying to say that, I mean, maybe, let me be fair to them, maybe they did not make that video, but the video came out where supposedly the EC was declaring Mahama winner. All these things came to court commotion. Right. People were demonstrating. And then you go to court and you say you did not win. How you understand that? Based on what and based on what is up to you. I don't really have a problem with that. Now, the question of EC using layers, I don't get it. Every structure, everything that put in place were issues that were discussed at IPAC and all that kind of stuff. Right. That first is the polling station, and then there is the constituency coalition, original coalition, and then it goes to the EC. Which other layer is he talking about? Now, I said we had 30-something thousand. Mention some of the polling stations that you have. You are mentioning constituencies. Yes. It is because we have collected all these things. That is why we have this thing, whatever, we go through them, and then we take it up from there. The fact that there are challenges that will be corrected, some of them ended up in court. The court said, okay, go and count it again, or whatever it is. They sort it out. Before it was this that won, then when they later counted it, this person won. Those things are not their issues. What I'm saying is that the petition did not really attack anything. Any of the polling stations. So tell me that of Anchor primary 2 polling station, based on our pink sheet and the pink sheet submitted by EC at this place, these were the differences which we have with them. Your petition is solely based on the declaration. You may have had other issues and talk blah blah, but they are just for the court to just hear. And then you said that the EC said this on this day, and the second day it should have been consulted, that there was vote part in and blah 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 and blah blah blah. Yes, you have a right to that. But I am also asking you that you did a press conference and you said you won. You come to the court and you said runoff. And now you are telling me something different. You are trying to explain it in a different way. That the legal and technicality, a win is a win. A runoff is a runoff. They are not the same. You cannot say you are going to use a runoff and I don't know. You go to court and say runoff, and then the EC they will declare you a win. I don't get it. If you won, you won. You go to the court and say, based on my coalition, I won. You tell your people that based on your coalition, you won. You go to the Supreme Court and say, based on your coalition, nobody won. And now you are telling me what? This is a contradiction. Now, going forward, what I want to say to this election and all these things is that it looks as if the NDC knows something we don't know about the elections. Because they are always speaking to rigging and somebody is stealing and all that. Bring all these things on board so that we reform. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we started with opaque. Before, there was no picture on your ID card. And you could not see through the ballot box. We've come all the way to biometric verification. And we are still talking about stealing here. Bring the stealing mechanisms. Let us infuse it into the system so that we take all these things, that we can have our peace and go forward.
Okay. All right. So I think that's a good segment for us to actually go into the other conversation. I know, Kwesi, you were taking some notes. He
didn't read the petition. He hasn't read it. I can send you a copy because you haven't read it. Because if you have read it, you wouldn't make statements like, we said we've won, and then in the petition, why are we not? In the petition, we are making reference to the Electoral Commission's results, which is the official results that upon which declaration is based on. So I'm not sure where you are getting that conflicting difference. We said based on the results that we did, based on our analysis, we believe we won. But we cannot go to the EC to go present our results because the Supreme Court to go present our results. Why? Because the law doesn't allow us to do that. The law allows us to take the EC's results, challenge that EC result, and prove beyond reasonable doubt that the results that they are presented that was wrong. And if their results is wrong, then based on the results that they are presented, which is wrong, it should be a runoff. Because the Supreme Court, you see, this is what he's not getting. Just like in 2012, the Supreme Court asked specifically for an audit of all the pink sheets. So I'm hoping and praying that just like we saw in 2012, the Supreme Court asked Deloitte and Touche, PwC, or whatever institution to audit the pink sheets, then we all can see what the actual results are. Because my brother can blow hot air. Because our results, we cannot go to the Supreme Court to say, hey, this is our result. And based on, it's like you take an exam and it says, hey, I went through my exam and I marked it myself, and based on how I marked it, I think I should get more marks. But then you can look at the rubrics that the examiner gave you and say, hey, listen, you said based on the rubrics, this is how much points you get for this answer and that answer. So based on that calculation is wrong. Then the person who will look at that results that they gave you, go back to check the rubrics and fix that correction. That is what we expected the EC to do that they didn't do. Personally, I've had that issue before where in my class, a lecturer has given me a grade, and then I look at the rubrics, and then it was wrong, and I say, hey, listen, but this calculation is wrong based on your rubrics, and then they'll go back and fix it. The EC didn't want to fix this election, so we had at the Supreme Court saying that based on the numbers the EC own, the numbers that they put out, they are still wrong because the percentage was wrong, because they said there was only one constituency, making reference to the 2012 declaration that even if the reason why they made that declaration, they made that statement was that 2012, we went back to time because time was about what, 60,000 votes or so, and that they said if we take that vote and give all of that to President Akufo-Addo, then it could swing in his favor. So if the EC said there was one constituency and that constituency couldn't change it, but now we come back to find out that there's 3 constituencies that were missing, and my brother can still say that, oh, that's fine, it was 3 constituencies. Even if we added all that 3 constituencies, it wouldn't have still made a difference. Then that's the hypocrisy that they bring to bear. So they can go ahead and still blow. That's what I'm saying. If he had read, And he was making reference to the fact that we haven't made specific police station examples of places that were wrong. Maybe he needs to go back and listen to the interview that our communication director granted, where he gave specific police stations, including one in my hometown, Sunyani West, where 49 people were on the voting roll, but they ended up getting 400 people voting in that police station. So he needs to listen to the fact and start. And he makes reference to the fact that, oh, if I haven't read the petition, how will I know that they're asking for a second round? Maza, someone in the village that has not even attended primary school can stay on the radio and listen and hear that, hey, the NDC is asking for a second round of election because media stations are saying that. So if you haven't read the petition, go read the petition and look at the details. We didn't even ask for one relief. There's about 4 reliefs or 5 reliefs in the petition. So you can't take one relief and go running around it because you probably heard that everyone is talking about it and make utterances about it. So yes, my brother should go read the petition and they should leave us. We know the details of our case and we fight it the best way that we know how.
All right, you're gonna fight your petition the best way you know how. We have a few comments. Let me read them, and then we can look at the next thing very quickly before we go. So, Paul really wanted to know if we have a phone for calling, but we don't have that this time. But Paul, we are working on that. So hopefully by next show or the one after, we should have a way for people to actually call us and make their contribution. So we are working on that, Paul. Paul again wants to know, he said Amayo is throwing dust into our eyes this evening. Well, I know Amayo is listening, so he got the message. And also Paul says, yes, we still stand by our press conference and the truth will come out if the Supreme Court gets an independent auditor to audit all the 38,000 pig shits. Okay. I think Kwesi has hammered that point home. Boslinga is saying, I totally disagree with you, Kwesi. You can claim you won and defend why you are saying you won. Shaking my head. Okay. So Boslinga is saying that, you can still claim that you won and then go and defend that. So there's no point in not saying that in your petition. All right. Paul is responding to Boslinga here, and he says, you do not tell us how we should present our case. We know what we are doing. All right. So I think, unfortunately, I don't know what happened, but Mr. F seemed to dropped off. I'm going to reach out to see if I can get to him. But before we do so, let's get some money. And then when we come back, I'll, take us through some development at Tema, and then we will talk about that and then bring the show to an end. So stick with me for a few more minutes, Mr. Kwesi, if you don't mind. Let's get some money quickly.
Hey, this your girl coming all the way from the US of A, yeah baby, aka ya Bantam. And me di feel a boozing pan and to see one virtue the money how Ghana mat ada romantic. With me sending provisions, as I such credit Emma Ebusuya phone and for more Ghana. And one is a www.ghanamat.com. And they would say, boy, a sharp connection. www.ghanamat.com. Let's provisions in the credit. Na really I have friend numbers na screen Ghana Mat crown.
All right, welcome back to the Ghana Agenda. We have a few people watching here. We want to recognize them. So I have here Mr. Dwayne Atkins. Atkins happens to be my boss back in the days when I was in the military. Thanks for watching, Mr. Atkins. We also have here Mr. Togbi Hanyo, Peter Hanyo of Aflau. He's watching us. Togbi, thanks for watching. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Ghana Agenda is on every Sunday. We are now on at 5 and we telecast from the studios of Arco Radio. Arco Radio is your number one radio station for those of us living in the diaspora. Okay. We also have, who else do we have? I think that's about it. Those are the people watching us. So let's go watch this video about LNG. LNG is the liquefied natural gas. If you live in the United States, you know that for our heating and sometimes power purposes, we use a lot of gas. Ghana, as part of its petroleum exploration, has also discovered gas, but we have no way to refine that gas, pump it up to be used by industries and even at homes. And now we have contracted a loan from China sometime in 2018. We've started building a badge at Tema that will be doing the regasification. And at this point, that project has completed. We are waiting to connect a few pipes to it, and we are hoping that in March of this year, the project will be commissioned and the first gas will be on its way to homes and to industry. So I'm going to play the video that kind of gives us a little bit of highlight on that. And when we come, we'll talk about that.
The LNG terminal is being constructed on the back of a 12-year gas supply agreement that was executed between the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation (GNPC) and Rosneft, a global LNG trader and the world's largest listed oil producer. Rosneft subsequently engaged Tema LNG Terminal Company for the provision of the regasification services. The LNG terminal, which will be completed in 18 months, will be Sub-Saharan Africa's first regasification terminal, strengthening Ghana's position as a regional trade and energy hub. The project, which will generate 1,600 jobs, is estimated to provide about 2 million tons of liquefied natural gas every year. This would mean that a facility would supply about 30% of Ghana's total electricity generating capacity, displacing crude oil and crude derivatives as fuel sources for the generation of power. In addition, a concession agreement signed between the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority (GPHA) and Tema LNG Terminal Company to allow for the siting and operation of the facility within the Tema port will deliver an annual revenue in excess of $1 million to GPHA throughout the total concession period.
Yeah, so you've heard it, listeners, and Akwesi, I think you've also listened to the tape about the liquefied natural gas project in Tema and the 1.2 million tons of natural gas that we would be having distributed to homes and perhaps to the mining companies and all other industries that may need that. We lost a far, and yes, it's because he was traveling from home to work to home, and of course he was on his phone. So apparently his phone died, and so he couldn't. Oh, there he goes. He managed to plug it in, and he's back with us. So, Afa, what we
my phone died though. I'm sure when I went away, Kwesi has hammered me.
I didn't say anything. I was waiting for you to come.
Okay, good. I wasn't paying attention. My phone went off, so I had to charge it a little bit. I don't know how long it can sustain me.
Okay, great. So we had a video that we played, and it was talking about how we went to China. We got some loan to build a badge at Tema for regasification purposes, so that our gas from Atuabu and all these other places that we are drilling in conjunction with our carbon petroleums can be processed and then pumped to homes, right? And we are expecting about 1.2 million tons to be added to what we currently have in the system, which is going to increase our production by about 30%. We are saying that this should help industries to kind of ease the power generation issue and perhaps solve some of, even go to the extent of solving our doomsday problem, right?
Yes.
Now, you haven't watched that video. I just played the video. I haven't asked the first question yet. So I want to kind of give you that breakdown before the question comes. Now, so the first question goes to Akwesi. Kwesi, you have watched this video. What do you think about the fact that would you not credit the government for doing very well in this area, and on the back of that we also had Moody's came out when I think on the 15th, which is 2 days ago, to say that that they are forecasting our economy to grow at about 4% GDP for 2020. Original estimates were that we were going to grow at 1.5, but Moody's has revised that to 4%. Wouldn't you credit this government for being a better steward of our economy and that they are actually investing in industrializing our country?
I think you might want to put one of those issues on the back burners, because I don't think you'll be doing FI any good if you decide for us to talk about how good the government has done in terms of managing the economy. But I'll give you guys one example.
Right.
As at the end of 2020, Ghana was owing independent power producers $1.7 billion.
Mm-hmm.
As at the end of 2020.
Right.
So now it's probably almost $2 billion. And this is interesting because before the NDC left power, we left a fund to ensure that our power costs can be paid for to be able to pay off all that loans. We left the ESLA fund. The energy we left the ESLA fund. Now our brothers decided, just like always, to take that and go securitize that money and take a bond and loan. And now the money is supposed to be going to this payment, having gone to the fact that in the late 2020, these power producers told government that they were going to cut power because they haven't been paid that much. $1.6 billion as of 2020. So I think that's a different matter altogether. But I think when we say we should give them credit for improvement within the power and oil sector, I think looking at hindsight, they don't deserve that much credit, because most of the credit when it comes to the power industry actually goes to President Kofi, definitely, and then most of the investment President Mahama did by adding 2 more oil fields, by ensuring that Ghana gas was sustainable, by ensuring that the Atuabo thermal plants was built, by bringing in Ameri and other power producers to ensure that Ghana was not able to just produce power, but be able to produce enough power such that we have excess that our brothers keep complaining about. Apparently, they don't have any smart ideas to make use of excess electricity, such that they can only complain about it, which is unfortunate. Definitely, any improvement within the oil gas industry is good, no matter which government it comes from. I think the government should probably have put in these things earlier on, because according to the information, this is supposed to be take the next 18 months. So which means the project is not actually completed. So 18 months from now, we are looking at maybe early first quarter of 2022, maybe.
It's actually completed, and the badge was delivered this I think last week or so.
So that's the thing. The badge was delivered, but then the project still needs an 18-month period to produce the gas, to be able to transfer that gas through the system in a project that is going to give about 2 million tons of LPG, employ about a couple thousand people. So yes, the batch itself is there, but then the process of getting the gas, putting in the infrastructure to transmit that gas is going to take another 18 months, which means we are looking at first quarter of 2022, and it's going to be for a concessionary period of 12 years. So yes, we are going to be getting gas for 12 years, but that is after these people have made their money, and then probably we are going to inherit the project, be able to manage it going forward. But then, as I said, every investment or every improvement in the oil and gas industry is important for us as a country because it helps in sustaining the economy. It helps to improving it. But I feel that if some of these things were put in earlier based on the previous investment that the government came to meet, then we would have probably enjoyed the benefits of some of these things a little bit earlier. Notwithstanding that, I think it's so, as it said, better late than never. When you ended, you made this comment, but we estimated to grow about 4% within. I think reading a different economic perspective, I think there's different economic perspective that disagree with this because I looking at the depth nature of Ghana, looking at how much more in terms of the trenches we are now, yes, I don't think it's feasible. Look, like if you look at other economic perspectives in terms of the debt to GDP, which now nobody really talks about it because it's about 70% HIPC levels. So I think that is what we need to deal with. But I think with the new parliament in place and maybe a little bit more safer guidance and maybe different systems, we might be able to grow as a country. But 4%, I really don't think so. Because if you look at the last 2 years within the MPP administration, you realize that from 2016, when they took over from the NDC, because of the improvement and investments we've made, they grew about 10%. But since then, they have dipped down to like 7%, 6%, and coming down. So coming from a COVID-ridden economy plus an economy with high level of debt and unemployment and stuff like that, I think a 4% growth would be kind of magical, and it'll be good for the economy. But based on the previous economic dealings and also based on the way they have managed the economy previously, I don't really see that. That is a perspective that I think different economic institutions have different varied opinions about that. But then again, as I said, investing in the oil and gas industry is good. We need to make sure that we are putting in place structures and processes to make sure that our people can benefit more from these new investments, that they can build on their level of expertise, they can build on their level of skills to be able that they can be employed in these ventures rather than we importing in people to work on these processes, because in the end we don't get anything substantial about it. But if you can get more and more people trained, more and more people into these areas such that they can build the skills and the expertise to be able to run, then the economy can benefit more from such investments.
Okay, I have another friend of mine watching, Obed Atakpa. Thanks for watching, Obed. Let's bring in Mr. Efa into this conversation. Mr. Efa, so from what I've described, it looks like, gas will become a reality very quickly here. It also looks like, the economy is, according to predictions, is poised to recover at a pace faster than we expected. Kwesi is saying, that is just one economic institution making a claim, that others do not believe that is going to be the case. He also says, yes, that, the government would have the country would have been in a better place if the government had acted sooner on this gas concessions stuff, that, we still continue to mortgage our ESLA out, and some of these things issues plaguing our efforts to industrialize and, regasify and grow the economy as fast and give employment to our people. What do you say to that?
Yeah, thank you. I think Kwesi will say that because if you have a government that came to power and was, for whatever reason, left the economy in shambles because we experienced doom suffer, 4 years, industries were down. I mean, foreign direct investments were affected and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he will say what he's saying. Now, the debt in the energy sector, when you have a government that sign a take or pay agreement, that you as a government, you see your capacity is a little over 2,000, that's not about 2,500 megawatts. Or then you go and sign, even you see, management of that capacity, what's a challenge? And then you go and sign twice that. Say whether it is produced or whether you produce or you don't produce it, you're gonna pay for it. When you sign such contracts, then you can come here and say that independent energy, this thing are not paid and all that kind of stuff. You know, in any case, the energy ministry has assured them that, you know, there are challenges with the economy because due to COVID-19 and all that kind of stuff. So they will be taken care of. So yes, the debts are all there, but we won't be where we are if we had not done certain things in the past. You know, so when it comes to energy sector, we were put into a lot of backlog, you know, with all these energy, blah, blah, blah. And when you talk about it, they say export. Did you make arrangement for exportation? That is just a different matter. But we thank the government that they've been able to handle it, renegotiate and going through all these kind of stuff. And, you know, that is another thing to be discussed later. Now, because we want to industrialize, see, this is a good news. This is good news, but we should work more on that and build. I agree with Kwesi, and build on our local capacity to be able to handle these things. Our dependent on everything we go and take it somewhere, everything we want added. You know, we can go if we don't have the expertise, but in the long term, we should build our local capacity to take care of all these things. Another area we should be looking at is solar, because we're going to need a lot of energy if you want to industrialize. Mining, you know, these manufacturing companies and all that. Even our homes, we cannot always rely on Akosomo. If it dries up, and then we get into all these problems. But you know, we can augment that with gas and solar. So we should really work in those areas. Now, talking about economic indicators, that's what that one. That's why economy and its growth there. Because you don't go there. When the late Mills left, the economy was at 11% or 10 point something percent.
Well,
and then we came up
14%, yeah.
So 14%. And then we came all the way to 3 point something as at 2016 when they were handing over. Then we went to 8 point something, and then it came down a little bit. So it's good news that COVID-19, we are going. In fact, some of the forecasts even said we're going to go negative. But now that we're going to grow at 4%. I mean, you see, this will remain a forecast. So what we must tell the government is not to put doubt and fear and try to put this in. You know, once a forecast has been given, there are certain things that you need to do as a government to push it. You see, that is why the government is putting with the upsurge of COVID-19. And when you listen to what the president said, you see, when we are forced to lock down, when economic activities go down, all these things affect growth. So, in as much as we are still within the period of COVID-19, what is it that we can do to make sure that, you know, our economy, you know, is also climbing up a little bit? Because we cannot afford some of these things that are happening in all these advanced countries, you know.
Right.
So the government, what the government need is the various expertise that they can assemble, you know, the advice that is going to be given, the role of the citizens, the role of all of us, you know, as far as growing the economy is concerned.
Right.
The COVID-19 is one thing that is hitting economies all over, you know. So measures that have been taken, the protocols and all these kind of stuff, it is important that we adhere to them so we can open up the economy. You know, we close the border or we close this, we do this, so activities and things can go on. Other than that, when things are shut, the forecast will remain a forecast, and some of the doomsayers' ideas might come in, you know. Right. So this is the time where we're going to need all to come on board, listen to what government says, The government too must make sure they put the proper things and implement the rules and make sure that people are adhering to some of these things. And hopefully, we are even going to go above the 4% that has been forecast.
Right.
Other than that, hey, we're going to give ourselves to the doomsayers, then they're going to get us and they're going to hammer us all the time.
Well, hopefully the doomsayers don't get to hammer us. Now, we stayed on for quite some time, so let's wrap it up. And before we wrap it up, I do want to take the opportunity to say a big thank you to both of you for actually coming and enriching this program today with your perspectives and contributions. It was a little contentious, but for the good cause. We are all fighting for one nation. We want Ghana to be prosperous. Now, before we leave, I want you to summarize and perhaps leave us with your last word. We've heard so much from you today. We know, Kwesi, that even though this is your first time, you heard strong against Mr. F.I. Mr. F.I., this is your first time on Ghana Agenda too. So the two of you did brilliant. And I want you to leave my listeners with your last words before we bring the program to an end. So let's start with who came first? That was F.I., right? So let's start with Mr. F.I. Mr. F.I., what are your concluding thoughts and what do you want to leave my listeners and myself with today?
Yeah, I want to thank you for this program, and I want to thank the listeners for listening to us and sharing their thoughts and all that. We don't claim to know it all. We're always going to come and make sure that we contribute to the development of the country. Now, quickly on the topics that we discussed today, Parliament they have to grow. We've come a long way as a country. This Fourth Republic has stood the test of time, 28 years and counting.
Yeah.
A lot is going to depend on the institutions of state and how they conduct themselves. It is very important. Now, we as citizens, we should stop vilifying these institutions because at one time they do things that we like, at another time they don't do things that we like. It is very dangerous. Now, if institutions are not good, as you are there, I always tell political parties, as you are there, make sure what your opponent is complaining about, you take care of it, because once the table turns, you tend to also complain about. So we should be making suggestions and we should be making reforms that improve upon the system, that the citizens can benefit from what is expected of the institutions. It is very important and it is very key. As citizens, let us play our roles in various ways. Don't try to undermine anybody. Don't try to do anything that undermines the system.
Right.
And we have to implement our laws. If we don't implement our laws, we are never going to grow as a country. You can keep saying, you can keep talking about them, but once you don't practice and people are not punished, people are not put in jail using the appropriate means, we are not going to learn. We're going to get it wrong sometimes, but we correct ourselves. A repetition of the wrongs is what is not acceptable. But once we get it wrong, we correct ourselves and then we move on as a country. And we pray, we hope and pray that we too, we are going to get there. We're going to get there together. It is not some people that are going to get there. We have to get there together.
All right.
And last but not the least, we need to create jobs. We need to reduce poverty. We need to make sure that little things that are taking us too long to put in place, we put them. And then Ghanaians also have the benefits for which they keep going, voting and changing government and all that kind of stuff. It's been a pleasure. Kwesi, thank you for coming. Paul D'Souza, I thank everybody. Alfred, thank you very much. And anytime you call us and we have the time, we're going to come and contribute our quota towards the development of Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's Mr. F.I., who was kind enough to join us today. Mr. Kwesi, can you also help us summarize your viewpoints on the show today and leave us with your last words?
I do associate with most of the things that Efa said. I think we only get an opportunity to share our opinions and thoughts. We don't claim to know it all or be an authority on everything. But as he said, this is just an opportunity for us to share what we know, opinions expressed by ourselves or others, or what we think might be a different perspective to look at things. as I said, I do associate with most of the things that he said. Going forward, we as a nation need to definitely provide our institutions with the best platform for them to be able to do their best work. During these couple of weeks, we've listened to different parliamentarians give different perspectives on how they think Parliament can do a better job. And I think as citizens, we need to be able to put the right pressure on the executive or whoever is in the position to be able to ensure that these institutions work and work creditably for all of us to be able to do so. Personally, I'm excited about what this age parliament holds for Ghanaians. I feel that maybe probably within the last 28 years, this is the best we're going to see of our parliament. I don't think and foresee it to be an opportunity to be antagonistic, because believing in the cause and believing in the fact that Ghana can do better and should do better is what we all hope for. For our part as the NDC, I think this will be an amazing opportunity for us to help Parliament to be able to be the check on the executive that has been missing over the last a tremendous part of our country's democracy. And I think going forward, those are benchmarks that will also help future executives to be able to be aware of the important role of Parliament that we all have to look to. I think it is early days in terms of the election petition. We all hope and pray that the justices of the Supreme Court do their best and deliver a verdict that every Ghanaian will be able to look at the verdict and be able to think that this verdict is something that is in tune with the law. This verdict is something that does not bring any biases to it, notwithstanding the fact that there are people who expect them to do their best job, because going forward, this will be something that will guide the country going forward in the long term. I think if I was point on when he said that in Ghana now, one of the most important things is creation of jobs. And I think even though the MPP government doesn't, we still question their legitimacy and of being in power. We still feel that while they still hold power for us within the next quarter, they do the best that they can do to be able to ensure that Ghanaians have the right structures in place, because job creation can only happen when the right structures are in place, such that entrepreneurs can take advantage of it to be able to grow, especially coming from post-corona or still within the corona period. And I feel that we need to always keep our people at the back of our mind whenever we do anything as a country, because we should have been a better place than we are now. And I think we all agree that we can do better. We have the capacity to do better, and I think we should challenge ourselves to be able to push ourselves to do better for each and every one of us. And I think one of the things he said that for me is very important is that as Ghanaians and as people, we need to celebrate each other. We need to encourage each other. We don't get anything from trying to pull each other down. We don't get anything from trying to make the other person look weaker or less more intelligent or less more eloquent.
Right.
Whatever effort that we have, we need to channel that effort to ensure that we are building together a nation that we can all be proud of. And someday we all might be prepared and willing to go back to offer our little due to help make sure that Ghana is the country we like to see. Thank you.
All right. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard my panelists. They've been very kind enough to join us today and share their opinions with us. They've also left us with some very inspiring last messages. Sometimes it's you think the NDC and the MPP will only come here and fight, but when you do get the two political parties working together and understand, sometimes even agreeing on things together, it gives me hope. And I think it should give you hope too. Again, this has been the Ghana Agenda for this January 17th. My name is Alfred Amuzu, and we come to you straight out of Washington, D.C. And we are on every Sunday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., even though we go over time sometimes. But I wanted to say a big thank you all for watching and for telling your friends about this show. Come back next Sunday, and we would have a packed show for you. Again, thank you all for watching, and Thanks to our panelists. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend, and we'll meet again this Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Alfred.